And we are live. Sorry, guys. I know it's been a while since my last live stream. I've had a couple of deadlines and getting ready for my vacation I'm taking on Tuesday. But I'm back today. Today's going to be a short live stream. I'm basically going to be going over exception handling. So, throwing exceptions and handling exceptions. But before we get into that, I would like to remind everybody if they haven't, check out my startup, Treat Me at Home. That is treatmeathome.online. And Treat Me at Home is a web application where you can sign up as a service provider and offer services to people who want those services done at home. So we're looking for any and everybody, whatever you can think of, tutoring, massage, hair and nails, fitness training, personal chef, personal nanny, any service that you can think of. We're looking for service providers to sign up. So basically, how it works is you find a service provider, you search for what you're looking for, and then when you find someone, let's say me, you can book time. So I offer violin tutoring and also one-on-one software development tutoring. And you can book time, and you can pick the day, the date, the time. You put your address. You can pay. You can also make subscriptions if you really like someone. You can subscribe and offer a discount for subscriptions. Let's see, where am I at? All right. So if you sign up as a customer, then you get 2% back for every purchase you make for a subscription. So if you spend $100 on a massage, you're going to get $2 back. And you can use these reward points to pay for other services. So you can use that to pay for other services that you want to try out, or if you just want to keep using it for the same service provider. But anyway, that's enough of that. So today, exception handling. What is exception handling and how do we do it in PHP? Exception handling is the process of handling your software when something breaks. In a production level environment, when you have software running, sometimes things might not go as they expect. And you do not want the application to just break or time out because that'll give your users a bad user experience. So in the background, you throw things called exceptions. If something breaks, you throw an exception, and then you have a handler that handles that exception. For example, let's say you're writing a invoicing application, and you need to get an email to send the receipt to. And in the background, you do a check to make sure that email is valid. And if it's not valid, you want to throw an exception to tell the user, hey, you need to put in a email that can actually receive an email. So that's one example. In PHP, there is a global level exception object, and it takes in a message. You can pass whatever message you want to it. That is the generic exception, and depending on for what you need to do in your application, you may need to extend that exception object and make your own form of an exception. For example, like I said, email not found exception, or as in the cases that we're about to do right here, min number and max number exceptions. So let me switch over. Let's see my screen. So I'm here in my virtual machine. I'm in our intro to PHP folder that we made from last time. And we're going to make an exceptions.php file. And sorry about that. Make sure I want to see the chat. Make sure chat's up. So in this application, we are going to actually, instead of doing it in the terminal, I'm going to save this. I have it I have my files, my folder opened up in my IDE, which is easier to see. Yeah, here we go, exceptions.php. So we're going to have a function, get random range, min max. So we're going to have this function called get random range, and basically is going to, you can give it a minimum and a maximum, and it can't be, the minimum cannot be less than 0, and the maximum cannot be higher than 10,000. If it is less than 0 or it is higher than 10,000, then we want to throw an exception. So PHP has a built-in rand function that we're just going to use. But first we're going to do some conditional logic. We're going to check to see if the minimum is less than 0. So if min is less than 0, throw new exception. Min must be greater than must be greater than 0. And then we want to do the same thing for the max, if but for greater than 10,000. If max is greater than 10,000, throw new exception. Max must be greater than 10,000. And then we're going to basically you want to use your try catch here. So we're going to try catch exception E. So we're going to try a block of code. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab the command line arguments from the we're going to grab the arguments from the command line when we type in PHP example exceptions.php, and then we're going to put a min and a max. So it's going to basically look like this. PHP exceptions.php min max. So we're gonna try get random range. Oh, I'm sorry, I totally forgot to do the return value. Return. Cannot type today. Return rand min max. There you go. So try echo get random range argv1 argv2. Now you're probably wondering, what is argv and where did that come from? Argv is the array of arguments that you pass into a PHP script. You can call this from any PHP script. So array index 0 is always the name of the script. So that's why we're starting with 1 and 2. So for example, this would be argv 0, argv1, argv2. And if you had 3 arguments here, it'd be argv3, 4, 5, 6, yada, yada, yada. So we're going to spit out whatever we put into the command lines. And if everything goes well, it'll just echo it out. And if it catches an exception, I want to add a new line so we get a clean break. All right, and then if we get the exception, then we want to do E, which is the exception object, get message dot. I'm gonna echo this. So if we get an exception, just echo out to the console what that error is. So let's try to run this. It's clear PHP exceptions at PHP. Let's do between 0 or between 1 and 100. 17. Okay, awesome. Let's try from -50 to 100. Now this should say minimum numbers should be greater than 0. Bow. Let's try 0 through whatever this number is. Oh, typo. That should be less than 10,000. Let me do that real quick. And let's see. Less than 10,000. Let me just rerun that. Yes. All right, cool. All right. So do you see how that works? In this example, nothing would have inherently broke if you didn't throw an exception. But what might be a case where something might break? Well, what if you are writing a mathematical program and you divide by 0? What will happen? You can't divide by 0. That's you're gonna produce an exception. So in that case, you might want to ask the user to put in another number. But this example just serves as a base purpose on how exceptions work. So the next thing we want to do is we're going to make 2 new exception classes that extend from the exception object. One for minimum number exception and one for maximum number exception. So let's start with min number exception. We're going to make a new class. We're going to extend it from exception, which, like I said, is in the standard PHP library. Extends. There you go. Let's see. Public function. And all we're going to do here is we could do a couple things. We can either override the constructor and just give it a default message, or we could override the get message function. I want to say it's the get message function. I just want to make sure I don't want to give you anything wrong. It's just error message. Okay. Yeah, I did that last time. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to override the error message function. And what this is going to do is when we call the get message, we're basically just going to format the function, the error message. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this min number exception, this get message, and then new line. That. And then we want to do the same thing for max number exception. sorry, min number exception, and then max number exception. Just looking through my code, making sure I didn't get anything wrong. All right, cool. Nobody in the chat, but that's okay. All right, so we are going to run this. Uh-oh. Cannot redeclare class. Oh, womp womp. Max. There, max must be less than 10,000. Yeah, must be greater than 0. So, this was just a pretty bare bones example. Now, depending on what the area is, you might want to do some background tasks like send emails, write to the database. You can throw another exception within an exception. So depending, it just depends on how complicated and complex your application is. But this is just a high level, bare bones skeletal overview of how exception and error handling works. Hopefully, sometime next week, hopefully Monday, Sunday or Monday, I would be able to do another video before I go on my vacation. I'm going out to California for 2 weeks, going out to my condo out there just to get away for a little bit. It's actually more of a workcation than a vacation. I'm gonna be working the whole time. But anyway, I'm going to try to do a video on introduction to database interaction. PHP, the vast majority of what you're going to be doing is web applications interacting with databases. So before we dive into Laravel, I want to cover this last little part. And then when I get back from vacation, then we will get into Laravel. Just bare bones, starting our first application, and heading from there. Also, hopefully by that time, I'm working on a Laravel virtual private host startup. So those of you who do not have your environment set up yet, you will be able to rent out a virtual Laravel server for $7 a month, and then you'll be able to follow along with the tutorials. You'll just have to, if you're on Windows, you'll have to use an application like Putty. If you're on Mac or Linux, then the built-in SSH tools will allow you to connect. But I'm gonna do a separate video about that altogether when I'm finished it. I'm almost done with that. But guys, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed, please take the time to subscribe. If you haven't looked at my blog, it's JyroneParker.com. I believe the link is in the comments. And other than that, you guys have a nice day, and I'm very glad that you've taken the time to watch this video. All right, guys, signing off. Jyrone Parker. Have a good day.